Welcome
back.
Welcome back. We're talking to Melanie Notkin, author of Otherhood, Modern Women Finding a New Kind of Happiness.
Childless, not necessarily by choice.
Right. Melanie, are you still with us?
Melanie?
Yes.
Oh, hi. Hi. So tell us, how did you get to the point? Now you're celebrating being an auntie, and you don't have kids of your own kids, and so you decide that there's another world out there who needs to hear from you, and those are the ones like yourself who don't have children. Tell us about how Otherhood came to be.
Sure. When I first of all, to be clear, I always wanted kids. I always expected to have kids, and I was naming kids in my imagination when I was 12. Like I was always. There was no question I was going to be a mom, a married mom, but I remained single and childless. After my first book, Savvy Auntie, The Ultimate Guide, came out in the spring of 2011, I became a contributor to Huffington Post, and one of the first posts I wrote is called The Truth About Childless Women. It was women like me who are circumstantially childless, who grieve our childlessness because we always expected to get married, fall in love, fall in love, then get married and have children.
Right.
And it became such a strong message for so many women who felt finally heard that I ended up on CNN and Good Day New York here, which is a pretty big morning show in New York, and I kept writing on that subject more and more in these very deep, meaningful ways of childlessness when you don't want to be childless, or what do you do as you approach the end of your fertility? The choices that one makes, or the choices people expect you to make, et cetera, et cetera. And so, Otherhood is a reported memoir on this. And while there is this serious subject of dealing with the grief, and it's disenfranchised grief. It's the kind of grief that people don't sympathize with because they sort of blame the victim. Well, you're being too picky. You've been focused on your career so hard. If you just go on Match.com, I'm sure you'd meet a lovely man. That kind of thing.
Right.
When really we're doing our best.
So
the book is actually much funnier than it's coming off right now.
No, it is funny. I actually
LOL.
could see. I've been reading the book, and I could see it as an HBO show or a movie, or the characters. Like I can visualize, the people that you're talking to, and not only just yourself, but other people's stories. But is it equal parts the marriage and the parenthood, or is it that they have to be together? Because it seems a lot like it's about the parenting, and there are lots of different ways to become a parent. So is it has to look a certain way? I
think most women are in their 30s and 40s and even early 50s, this Generation X and maybe even older millennials had expect to have a child within the context of love, within the context of a relationship. And while, the idea of marriage, as we know, is loosening up a bit, and, maybe they're living together, maybe they're boyfriend and girlfriend, whatever it is, but people want a child with somebody they love. It's very rare that a woman says, well, I'm going to be single and I'm going to have a baby on my own when I'm 42. It's difficult to be a single parent, but also one part of the existential desire to have a child is out of the bond of love with somebody. It's part of your love. It's an extension of your relationship, and you want to have a child with that person. So, of course, there are women who go on, and I champion those women. I talk about those women. Many of those women are friends of mine who go on to have a baby on their own, but that wasn't, what they expected. But like I say, personally, my life is nothing. It's not the life I expected. Nothing compared to the life I expected, but in many ways, it is a life beyond my expectations. I'm a very happy woman, as are all the women I talk to in the book. We have our moments of grief. We have our moments of disappointment. But we also know that we choose love, and we choose to wait for love, which is actually quite a feminist idea, right? We didn't have to get married right out of college because we couldn't afford to live on our own. and we can now, and we want to be in love, and whomever we're with deserves to be loved. And so, while many of us are hedging our bets, waiting for love before children, or decide at that borderline regret to have a child on our own or to adopt a child, what have you, we are doing it out of the context of a dream to fall in love, get married, or live with somebody and have a baby.
You know what, Melanie, I don't know if you know, I'm a single parent and divorced a couple years back, and have been raising a kid by myself. And a lot of people will ask me about having more children. And the disappointment that people give me is like, oh, just the one. I get that a lot. But I've had a lot of people ask me about adopting another, and if I, because my son really wants siblings. And, for me at this point, like, I've done the single mom thing, and it's really hard. And for me, it's about family. Like, I want the unit. And I know right. And you said earlier, and there's a lot of articles that I read that I really resonated with me. The people say that I'm too picky, and because I can't find, why don't you just find a man that has children and that'll complete your family? Why don't you just do this and why don't you just do that? And I get that whole feeling of it's hard. This is hard. And when you have an image in your mind of what it's supposed to look like, you should hold out for that. When you only know what your own limitations and expectations and hopes and aspirations are. So I don't really have a question there. It was just more of a bookend.
But and I feel like in some ways, I know we have to take a break, but I want to comment on that. Melanie, can you stick around?
Sure.
All right, we'll be right back after this break. Welcome back.
Sweet little Jackie.
That's me. So we're on the phone with Melanie Knockin, I can't speak today, author of Otherhood, Modern Women Finding a New Kind of Happiness. So Melanie, I'm listening to you and I'm listening to Kim, and part of me, a large part of me is like, I'm married, am happily married. I have 3 children, 2 through biology and 1 adopted. And so I feel like in some ways like, oh no, you can't say anything. However, reading the book and also being Kim's friend for many years, I sometimes feel like while some people may call it picky, it's not necessarily picky, but sometimes our minds aren't as open to the possibilities of people you wouldn't expect as being the right partner for you. Do you feel like that's ever the case?
It's not the case for me. I can't speak for other people. I think that we want to find out, so what happened, right? What's the reason why you're single, because you've got all these things going for you, and yet you can't find the guy? Well, part of the problem is that not all men want a relationship. Not all men want to get married. Not all men want to have children. And it's not for lack of trying. It's not for lack of being open. But it is for a lack of just needing to settle to prove that I can be lovable, etc. So for me, I like love, and I'm good at love, and I've been in love, and I've been heartbroken. Boy, have I been heartbroken.
Right.
But I won't settle for lesser love, and it's easier if you think of love and dating as like a game of musical chairs. If you somehow get a chair before the music stops, you're wondering, well, maybe because they weren't strategic enough to get a chair, maybe because they didn't go fast enough to get a chair. Whatever it was, it's easier once you're in that comfortable place to wonder why people are still walking around circles trying to get that chair when the music stops. But the music doesn't just play for those who are in love, who got love. It plays for all of us, and love isn't a reward for those who deserve it. It's a reward
Absolutely.
for those who wait for it, and you didn't have to wait as long as I do.
Well, and I didn't, and you know what? The fact is that I would be probably, I think, in the same situation you and Kim are in, waiting for that guy. If I met my husband, we were friends for 4 years. I had no idea. So much that somebody said to me, like, I could see you with Jeff McDougall. I was like, he's too boring.
I just think that the conversation that Melanie, you're bringing out and inviting people into is bigger than just the anti part. I think it's about acceptance and tolerance, and in some ways the people are so quick to judge. And I can only say this because I did this with a very dear friend of mine, my friend Michelle, who is engaged to a great guy, but she was the auntie. She was all of our kids' auntie. She didn't have kids of her own. And all of us were like, just maybe adopt or get inseminated. Like, just, you won't regret it. And she was the one of all of us that wanted a child more than anything. And I remember when she went through that period of like, it's not going to happen for me. And the grief that you spoke of earlier, and really just all of us having to just back off and let her live her life and be happy the way she was and let her be this great aunt and this great woman in all of our lives. And now she's going to be an awesome stepmom. And, I celebrate that. But I remember that feeling of like, why am I so down on what she's doing? It's her choice. And, and I wasn't going to add any more insults or whatever was already her injury. But I think that, we're so quick to judge people for what their life is because we want them to have all the happiness in the world. And we want it to look like our happiness rather than just like you said, right, accept your happiness for what you are. And I'm a perfect example of that. Like I'm a happy woman. Would I be happier if I had a person in my life that I could share my happiness with? Yes, but I'm good. Like, I'm good. Right. And I've accepted, I've embraced this life that I didn't want or choose, but I'm good here and I'm happy and I'm making the most of it. And it sounds like that's what you're doing. And I appreciate that you've opened up that dialogue for us.
But how do you find the balance between, allowing yourself to grieve what you thought would happen and being happy with what you have?
Well, it's a process, certainly. And I'm very happy with who I am now. And in fact, now I'm in my mid-40s, and I talk about this in the book. Now I'm actually more attractive to men. And I think because men will think, and I talk about in the book, the Bermuda Triangle, dating Bermuda Triangle, where women between the ages of 35 and 40, right. men are hesitant to date because they think they're all desperate for them. They're all desperate to get married. If these women by 35 didn't marry, they were never desperate to marry, but they wanted to marry. But in any case, now that it feels more safe for them, that I'm not. They don't assume I'm desperate for them. They have become a little bit more desperate for me. It's a very interesting dynamic, and so my life looks a little bit different than it did. But also, frankly, you can't measure your happiness on other people's measure of what happiness is, or even what happiness is for you. And you can't measure happiness on what the younger you, and that could have been even the 20-year-old you, decided what happiness would look like when you're 35, 40, 45. And so the only way to measure, to be happy is to look at one's authentic self, and to appreciate one's authentic self and to live one's authentic life, which is, I made the decision not to be the wrong wife in the wrong life.
Right.
Even if that meant I wouldn't have children. And even if that brought me grief. But I made the decision. And I'm a happy woman because of all the other things in my life. It's not the life I expected, but it is a life way beyond my expectations. And when we appreciate ourselves, and our true authentic selves, that's the only way to measure happiness.
So, Melanie,
great.
Are your parents still alive?
My mom passed when I was 19 many years ago. My dad, thank God, is 82, and every week 50 kilometers he cycles.
Wow.
He's in great shape. Yeah,
so
amazing.
My father is still alive, and I have a great relationship with my dad. And one of the hardest things for me with my dad is the look of like, oh, my baby, and like his worry for me, and am I ever going to find somebody? And I'm getting the signal that we have to go to break. So I want to leave this with you about how your parents have embraced your dad specifically. Sorry, embraced this life and this you, and if your dad has that worry for you and that sorrow that my dad seems to have for me. So we're going to take a break.
Can you stay a little bit? Because we weren't going to have her any longer, but can we keep you? Can we keep you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm here for you.
We'll be right back.